Man, does it feel good to be on the right side of a victory after my Carolina Panthers just laid down a DSGA. For anybody that doesn't know, that is a down south Georgia ass whooping on them dirty birds. 30-0, blanked them at home. And in this video, I'm going to be giving out awards for some performances that I saw put forth out there on the field for my Carolina Panthers. And we're going to get into all of that right after this.
From the foe, you dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 3K. Trying to make sure my channel continues to grow as my Carolina Panthers continue to whoop ass this season. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to these awards. Now, there are few people involved with the Carolina Panthers that have received as much vitriol from me as this next person that's about to receive this award, but you can already see who it is, so I'm gonna call it the Redemption Award. I'm not gonna call it a baller, because to be a baller you have to put together consistent performances, so I haven't seen that yet. So winning the very first Redemption Award, we have defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero. Now, undoubtedly, this was the best game that I have seen this man coach for the Carolina Panthers in the 3 seasons that he has been here as the DC. Now, a lot of people, including myself, have been urging Ejiro Evero to please play the younger guys. We see that these free agents and these veteran players that we have on the team are not getting the job done, and unfortunately, injuries forced Ejiro Evero's hand and pushed him to put the young guys, including a safeties, our edge players, and all over the defense. It forced him to go ahead and inject them onto the field, and when that happened, we saw what exactly this defense could look like when we have young, fresh legs out there on the field attacking from all angles. Now, the most credit that this man deserves is since halftime of the Arizona Cardinals game, and in the second half of that game, and for the entirety of this game, there has been 6 quarters of football played, and the Carolina Panthers opponents have scored a sum total of 0 points in that 6-quarter stretch, which is just amazing if you look at how this team was playing at the beginning of the season and throughout majority of last season, being the worst defense of all time. It looked like that was just going to continue to spill over into this season. But in this game right here, we saw all of the things that Ejiro Evero has tried to preach to us about what are the values and what are the tent poles of this 3-4 defense and what it would look like if it was actually, running on all cylinders. And today we actually got to see that humming. We did not see any sacks, but we saw what the pressures that this type of defense, when it's run effectively, what it can do to a team, what the DB deployment and what the coverage could look like if the linebackers are actually able to play their coverage good. And he actually got into his bag a lot, using more DBs than he typically does, moving Trayvon Moehrig around the field to show that he could actually use him in a way that he should have been using Jeremy Chin. But that's a thing for another video. But Ejiro Evero was definitely showing what he was able to do in this game. So in terms of giving him any type of apology, the Carolina Panthers, if you are a fan and you have been subjected to watching what this man has put out on the field over the last season and up until this point in the season, of course we do not owe him an apology. But if we are going to acknowledge what he did in this most recent game, and if recency bias is going to kick in and we have to talk about what we just seen, we have to say that this was the most redemptive thing that Ejiro Evero has done in his short time with the Carolina Panthers. So winning the very first Redemption Award, Ejiro Evero. You shut me up this week. He shut me up this week. I ain't got too much shit to talk. Can't say much. Cannot say much at all. So I am going to keep my mouth shut. But as we're on this train of talking about redemption and people that had a lot to prove, people that had a lot of overcoming to do and a lot of bad film to, pretty much show that they could overcome, the next person that we're going to talk about is also somebody that occupies the sideline, but this person is somebody that is actually the big man in charge. So winning the second Redemption Award, we got head coach Dave Pretty Ricky Canales. Now, I do not say that as a diss this time. That is just honestly something that I'm used to just saying that about him now. That's just it is what it is. I say it in fun in this video because Dave Canales was actually deep in his bag this game. We got to see what Dave Canales is actually able to do when he is able to deploy the run game out there to a point where it outweighs the called passes, when he actually is able to operate the offense in a way that these called runs are actually the majority of the offense, when he is given an advantageous position for the from the defense. We saw just what Dave Canales' offense is able to do. To just give you a little context about what happened with the defense being as dominant as it was today on drives that the Carolina Panthers scored on. They started on the 39, the 13, the Atlanta 45, the Atlanta 30, and the Atlanta 38. So 3 of the 5 scoring drives that we had in this game started in amazing territory, either because of a turnover or simply because of a turnover on downs. But when we see that we are not fighting from behind, Dave Canales is actually able to run the plays that he has scripted, what he's actually schemed up during the week to face up against that specific defense when we are not fighting to get back in the game because of untimely turnovers or, pick sixes and stuff like that, where we're just putting ourselves in a hole early where he actually has to get out of the flow of what he schemed up in practice in that week coming up to the game. We actually can see that Dave Canales is able to do the job that we need him to do, man. So this is the first time that I can recall. I'm not calling this up for the numbers exactly, but just something that the naked eye saw looking at this game, looking at how the passes were distributed, and then looking at the box score at the end. The tight ends in this game accounted for a third, over 33% of the passes that Bryce Young completed to pass catchers went to tight ends, that being Tommy Tremble, Mitchell Evans, the rookie, and as well as JT Sanders, who continues to actually show that he has developed over this offseason and he needs a lot more opportunity than he's been doing. I've not seen Dave Canales trust Bryce Young to attack the middle of the field that much in any game I've seen him coach in ever, like, to this point. So those two are clearly starting to get on a better wavelength with each other. He's giving Bryce a little bit more leash, a little bit more leeway to get the ball out a little bit quicker and utilize the middle of the field. And the utilization of the tight ends is just something that I can point to show that Dave Canales was actually doing things that we are not actually used to seeing him do, because normally we are fighting to either stay in the game or scratching and clawing to just, get some points in garbage time. So for that reason, I have to give Dave Canales, head coach of my Carolina Panthers in week 3, a redemption award. Shout out to Pretty Ricky. All right, man. Let's keep it up, Dave, man. Let's keep it up. I want to see that we can keep this going on. Sunday, I was in attendance at the game. It was one of the most fun times I've ever had at a game. I was with my father-in-law to be, my brother-in-law to be, and my uncle-in-law to be. We were all there. We were lit. We were right there in the end zone. We watched the Carolina Panthers go off, and that was something that I have to say I appreciate you all for allowing me to experience that. But you all were just on the sideline. You and EJ were just over there on the headset calling the plays. There were players out there on the field that actually had to make this thing go. And of those players winning this week's first Baller Award, we have the entire front 7. Now, first of all, I have been somebody that has been hypercritical of the linebacking core. Christian Roseboom, but more specifically Trevin Wallace, a homegrown talent, a drafted player, a top 100 player that we have a lot of stock put into. I was very disappointed by what he put forth out there on the field up until this point. But in this game, Trevin Wallace actually had one of the best, if not the best game I've seen him play in his short career. I believe that he did an incredible job tracking and spying on to Bijan Robinson and making sure that although if he did make it past, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6 yards, he was not breaking for the big run, and he was always in there. If he was not the first man to the ball, he was always involved in the run game, which is something that he has been like susceptible to misdirection and just getting just washed out of the play by blockers. In this game, Trevin Wallace was all over the field, and that was something that I've never actually seen him do. So I want to give him a shout out for doing that. He balled this week. Derrick Brown, DB, is shaping back into form after coming off of that catastrophic injury that unfortunately lost him the entirety of all of last year. So in the first game, I unfortunately had to give him a Assable Mention Award because we did not see the DB that we were used to seeing, but I made sure to give it the caveat that I thought that we would see the Derrick Brown of old in the upcoming weeks. And in today's game, or yesterday's game rather, he proved me so right. Derrick Brown was a force, a big body, and a movable object in the middle of this defense that was just stout and clogging up everything, showing that he still has it. And as he continues to play his way back into game shape, we can expect him to get back into that Pro Bowl, and hopefully, as he is still a young player and still developing, hopefully get into an all-pro level as we've seen as well. But moving on from the interior to the exterior, unfortunately, Pat Jones was injured before this game, somebody that has been penciled in as a starter, but anybody with any conventional wisdom of this team would know he probably will be the first player that will be eventually moved to the bench when one of the Carolina Panthers selected rookies, either Princely Umanmielen or Nick Scorton, is thrusted into the starting lineup. Well, in this specific game, it was Nick Scorton, the second-round pick, the higher of the 2 draft picks, that was given the green light to be the starter in this game. And I must say that both of the young guys had something to say, and neither one of these guys disappointed whatsoever. This was by far the most snaps that either one of these guys had played in either one of the games. Nick Scorton specifically got the start. As I mentioned, he played 56 total snaps, which was 85%. And then you had Princely Umanmielen that played 34 snaps, which is more than he's played in both of the previous games combined. And he was out there, and he had an immense impact as well. Although neither one of these guys stacked or stuffed the stat sheet in any way in this game. If you look at the film, they were both consistently getting pressure off of the edge, making Michael Penix uncomfortable, forcing him to look as terrible and shitty as he did in the game yesterday. That was not all because he's just terrible. That was because we had our young guys out there on his ass for a majority of this game. And although they were not able to take him down throughout the game, what they were able to do was rattle him. So I have to give an undoubted shout out to the young boys, including Trevin Wallace and Derrick Brown, for being this week's Baller Award winners. Shout out to the gang. Them boys was going crazy, man. Them boys was going crazy. But there was a group of guys out there that I honestly think outplayed the front seven, outplayed the guys that were responsible for holding Bijan Robinson, one of the most explosive athletes, one of the most explosive run after catch running backs in the league. And that was the guys that were holding down Drake London and all of the pass catchers that were just blanketing the field and keeping everything covered to the tune of multiple turnovers. And I am talking about the entire DB. Oh, hold on. Oh, I didn't add the DBs. Okay, hold on. I got to give my guy some shine. I want to talk about the entire DB core. Unfortunately, I did not add my graphic before the video, but I am going to have to give my guys some love. All of the DBs, the entirety of the DB core showed their ass today, and that is the reason why we only allowed zilch, nada, 0 points for the Atlanta Falcons. I want to first start with newly acquired and big money signing free agent safety Trayvon Moehrig, who was used in a hybrid safety role today that not only was effective in laying the wood whenever he got to a ball carrier, which was Bijan Robinson or whoever held the ball, was holding on to the ball. He was also utilized on blitzes, also had a QB hit, also was all over the quarterback, making big plays everywhere, proving that he is more than worth the big money investment that we invested into him. Excuse me, my mouth's getting dry. Over this offseason. Then we have the young guy in Lathan Ransom, somebody that is coming in getting increased snaps as a rookie in this game, just like Nick Scorton, just like Princely Umar-Mielen. This was the most snaps that Lathan Ransom has played in his entire young season so far, and he continues to show why he deserves to play even more than what he's been afforded so far. He had 5 tackles and a forced fumble at the end of the game, stamping a dominant victory for the Carolina Panthers, not even allowing for the Atlanta Falcons to have any hope at the end of the game. These guys didn't even get past the 31-yard line for the entirety of the game, and Lathan Ransom being in the backfield, being deep, being in the big, you know what I'm talking about, being back there with the safeties, being back there with the DBs was a big reason for that. Then we have the likes of Shaw Smith-Wade, a second-year player, somebody that was drafted, playing an unnatural position, playing in his second season in the NFL, being an inside nickel cornerback, as he was a natural outside guy before coming to the NFL. He is somebody that continues to excel, proving that he may sneakily be the best player from that first Dan Morgan draft class, getting a pick 6, putting a demoralizing blow on the Atlanta Falcons after halftime. At this point, we had already rendered their kicker useless, forcing him to miss 2 kicks. But at this point, Shaw Smith-Wade took the pick 6 back, putting us up 17-0. So not only at that point was their kicker out of the game, we had then taken their punter out of the game for the rest of the game as well, because they could not feasibly in any way, shape, or form punt and try to come back from 17-0, and Shaw Smith-Wade putting the bow on that was the reason we were able to embarrass them so much from that point moving forward. Then we have a second-year free agent signing in Mike Jack, who continues to be a bad man out there at cornerback 2 opposite of J.C. Horn. He had what should have been a pick 6 in this game, but unfortunately Mike Jack just did not want to keep running. For whatever reason, he decided to cut back, lose about 10 yards on his interception run back yards for whatever reason. I think he said in an interview after the game that, he was tired. He didn't want to have to be forced to go right back there on the field after returning it from so far. I don't give a damn. The point is Mike Jack got a turnover, further demoralizing the Dirty Birds, showing that we run I-95 down south, we the shit, and y'all can take y'all asses back down, which is exactly what we were saying to the Falcons fans after they were leaving the stadium. Not in any aggressive way, all in fun, of course, but Mike Jack was the cherry on top that just forced everybody to leave at that point. You started to see the stands start to get empty, as we just established that there has been no hope and there will be no hope in this game. And after Mike Jack's play, that's when that was established. So finally, we have J.C. Horn, who continues to just lock down everybody that he's lined up against. He had Drake London in the seatbelt, making sure that he was tucked in tight and making sure that he would not get hurt out there trying to play a little wide receiver. He did nothing but do cardio when he was lined up against J.C. Horn. And finally, I have to admit that Nick Scott did not do anything egregious in this game. He actually played pretty well, just like everybody else, so I have to give a shout out to him as well. So for that reason, all of the DB core, the DB room, y'all are definitely ballers for this week. Shout out to y'all, man. But now, it's one player that I have to highlight more than anybody on the offensive side of the ball, that being none other than Cade Mays. Now, if you're not aware, but I'm pretty sure most of you are aware, that starting safety Austin Corbett has went down for a potential season-ending injury for the second year in a row. But if you ask any Panthers fan with any, common knowledge of how the offense has worked over the last 2 seasons, they will tell you, and I will tell you, we have operated at a much higher level when we've had Cade Mays being the one operating the snaps, much more so than Austin Corbett. I'm honestly not sure what Corbs is doing in training camp to prove to this coaching staff that he deserves to be on the team more so, or be starting more so than Cade Mays. In the first game, if you watched my video a few weeks ago, if you watched the game a few weeks ago, you saw that for 4 straight quarters, Austin Corbett threw shitty, terrible snaps to Bryce Young, causing us to lose tempo and rhythm in our offense and forcing us to just be completely out of whack throughout that game. Compare that to what we saw in today's game with Cade Mays, and it was completely a 180 from what we saw then, because there was none of that. Cade Mays was completely solid. We didn't have any missteps. We didn't have any missed calls. We didn't have any egregious offensive penalties. The only one that I honestly can remember was by a veteran in Damian Lewis, who honestly we expect more from him than that. But when you look at somebody that's seen as a replacement level guy like Cade Mays, he got in there and absolutely did his thing. There was a sack given up in this game, but that was not on Cade Mays. That was because Rico Dowdle did not effectively pick up the blitzer, and Ike Ekwonu just got dominated right off the ball on the other side. Cade Mays was solid throughout this entire game, proving that he should be the starter on this team for the foreseeable future. So for that reason, winning this week's Baller Award, Cade Mays. Shout out that boy, Cade. Shout out Big Cade. All right, man. So now, there were a lot of people that were responsible for this victory, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to highlight everybody. But we did score 30 points. I know the highlight of this game, and we can attribute majority of the reasoning or the blame. I don't even want to call it the blame. We can give the reasoning or the reason why we won to the defense. A lot of people are going to claim that that is the main thing, but we did score 30 points, and there had to be some people out there that put those points on the board, and those people will be the ones receiving this week's honorable mention. Those guys being Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, and Ted McMillan. A beautiful sight. QB1, RB1, and wide receiver 1, all contributing immensely to a overwhelming victory to a division rival. It honestly does not get much better than this. Bryce Young, although he threw for less than 150 yards, as I mentioned earlier in this video, where we were starting our drives from was just the defense was balling so much that Bryce Young did not have to put together any 70, 80-yard drives. We were starting on the Atlanta side of the field, and what we were doing was ending majority of our offensive possessions with points to the tune of 23 points for the offense. Bryce Young only 16 of 24 for 121 yards. We had Chuba Hubbard with a sneaky 73 rushing yards, and we had Ted McMillan only with 3 catches but 48 yards, and another spectacular, of course, top 10 breaking catch in the first half, establishing that he is the front runner for this year's Offensive Rookie of the Year, and definitely going to be the best rookie pass catcher the Carolina Panthers have ever seen in the history of our franchise. So I didn't want to get through this video without giving those specific guys a honorable mention, man. So what do you all think about this week's awards, man. Do you think that there are any other players that needed a specific highlight? Who do you think were the ballers in this game? I could not sit here and talk about everybody. I got other stuff to do, man, but I know that everybody played well. What do you all think about the guys that I selected? Should there have been any honorable mentions? Are you one of those? Are you like on the other side of the fence that thinks that there actually was somebody that was terrible in this game? I'm not going to talk about that ETN play. That was something that I thought could be catastrophic, but the defense turned up and they forced another. They just forced the fourth down. They missed the kick and we dominated from there. But something that I did want to mention earlier in the video, I know I was like ending, but shout out to Dave Canales for showing the wherewithal to say that no, there will be nothing's a learning experience in this game. We are 0-2 against a division rival at home. If we lose this game, the season's pretty much over. We are here to win. And what did he do after Trevor Etienne muffed that punt? He put David Moore back there because he said, we do not have time to have any pep talks and talk about development. We are here to win. And I want to say that I have a lot of respect for Dave Canales for making that move, man. But I'm not going to keep y'all here any longer. Y'all go ahead and drop your comments on what you think about this video down below, and I'll be sure to get back to you then. But until next time, I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.